into that. So welcome again, everyone. And again, I'm Cindy Myers. Whoops, let me get to the front here. And my website is yourenergyhealer.com in case you would like to uh, check out some of the other things that I have going on at my events, some blogs. There's just a lot of information on the website that my different services that I offer for both human and pets. Tonight's webinar is geared towards the human. I do another webinar called Animals and Emotions for those of you that with pets. That one will be later in April, in a few weeks. If you want to hear those topics and have your pet possibly read. Tonight, at the end of this webinar, I will open it up to anybody who feels like they needed some emotions removed, trapped emotions removed, and experience what it feels like to have a clearing. I do a little sampling for anybody that would like it. So let's go on. So before I get going more, if you're having a medical emergency, please call 911 or your doctor. But what I can do for you is provide energy support. I can clear those trapped emotions out, which can really keep your energy flowing, that will support your body's natural healing abilities, work alongside what your doctor is doing. It can also help keep you a little calmer if there's a medical emergency going on. So let's talk a little bit about that true north. And, right now, the reason it came up as a topic was because I was kind of facing this feeling of burnout and stress, being stressed out and overwhelmed. The news has just been so horrific. Like the other day just really hit me hard. And being hypersensitive, that the news is not a good thing to always look at, but I do try to stay at least a little informed of what's going on in the world. But it can get to all of us, and I think it can really hit all of you. And plus, we can have our own personal issues going on in our lives that can add to that overwhelm. And when we get into that state, even if you know what your true north is, it can knock you off. It can get you off course really fast. And you're not even sometimes aware that you're off course until just everything just feels like it's hard. You maybe not sleeping well, your diet is getting messed up, maybe your digestive system is acting up. You might get headaches more often, your neck and back hurt, your body hurts, just things. Your physical body may not be working. You may not be able to focus as easily or readily. You might be finding yourself procrastinating more, maybe angry more, your temper. You just have a more shorter temper. A lot of these are symptoms of all that burned out, stressed out, overwhelmed state. And that is a recipe for getting off your course. And if you're already off course, it'll just take you further down a rabbit hole and just really take you further away. So if you're feeling that little bit of loss, if the things are getting to, if you're more sensitive to the news, if you're more sensitive just to your family and your pets, things that you would normally find cute is now irritating you. And you're probably in that lizard brain stressed out state. So the good news on some of this is that chaos is almost is a precursor quite often to us finding ourselves back on course. Sometimes it's really subtle that we're off course, and that lead up. You don't always instantly go from, oh, I'm doing really good, to that burned out, stressed out state. There's usually quite a few I call it like a bank, a piggy bank, and you're filling it up. Well, in this case, you're filling it up with stress. Or in our healing circles, I talk about it's like carrying around a backpack filled with stress rocks. Well, you keep putting in another rock and another rock, and in the beginning, and yeah, you can carry it around pretty not too hard and not notice it that much. But boy, after a while, putting that many stress rocks in, it gets really hard to keep moving forward. And that chaos, though, is sometimes necessary. It actually is a law of nature, chaos. It's called entropy, that we need to have things fall apart. But then the other part of nature is that it always wants to come back together. Out of chaos comes uniformity. It wants to reconnect. Water molecules is a really good example of those different states of chaos. In the begin, if you look at ice in the solid form, it's not chaos. It's actually very solid and secure. Those bonds between the hydrogen and oxygen are really strong. It's barely moving. It is moving. They're moving very slowly because it's so solid. It's such a strong bond. If you put those ice cubes in a pot of water in a pot and turn a burner on and they start to melt, right? When they melt, those molecules are starting to move and it turns to liquid, but they're still in a solid form, so they're still pretty strong. But as it boils and it becomes steam, those bonds separate. And that's the chaos. So when you see that water boiling, that's chaos. That's that things are churning and moving and those bonds are breaking apart. But then when it goes up into the sky and becomes clouds, it reforms into raindrops. And so it wants to get back, find itself again. And that's kind of true for us when we go into that chaotic state of being taken off our north uh, our true north, and we feel that chaos, that overwhelmed state, all those things, everything's rattling about, but it feels so uncomfortable that at some point, hopefully, we we get drawn to finding solutions that are not just lizard brain solutions, because lizard brain again is not a wise decision maker. And so by coming and finding these solutions, we get that solid bond again. And when we do it for ourselves, and I like that saying of think, what is that? Think globally, act locally. When we work on ourselves, it actually ripples out and impacts the collective, the society. So by working on ourselves and figuring out where our true north is, that reducing that chaos and getting it nice and strong foundation going, then then it actually ripples out to the rest of to our family, because we're more calm and we can see things differently than lizard brain. And then we can also then it ripples out beyond our home into the collective society. So let's talk about lizard brain versus higher brain. And for those of you who are new, may not know what I mean by lizard brain, but it's that fight or flight response system. It's the reptilian brain, is why I call it lizard brain. And I like to use the term lizard versus other. If I think of reptilian, I sometimes think of alligators or snakes or something kind of scary. But when I look at a lizard, I just think they're kind of cute. And most of the things the problems that I get triggered by are not an alligator going to jump out at me. I don't live in Florida, so they're not going to jump out at me and chomp on me. So they're not a huge threat. It's not a real life or death threat that what my trigger is. And so but my decision is based on a lizard or an alligator coming after me. So it's very automatic, it's very reactionary, and you really have three choices to pick from. You run, you fight, you freeze. That's pretty much it. That's the theme. The story behind it, that the rationale that your brain comes up with to make it okay to follow one of those three choices may sound different, but it really is. If you just drill it down and look at the real reaction to it, you're gonna run away from the problem. You're gonna freeze, procrastinate. That's a biggie for me. I'd love to procrastinate when lizard brain kicks in, and that's kind of like freezing. It's rare. I rarely get into fight mode, but I will get crankier. That I must admit. So any of those, if I am in lizard brain, if I get cranky with my dogs or my animals, I know I'm in lizard brain. So those are some of the becoming aware of what state I'm in. And then I go, oh, I don't want that to make my decisions. I need to pull myself out of lizard brain. So the higher thinking, your higher functioning brain, that can have a broader response to things, and much wiser. It could come up, it may see things from way different perspectives than what lizard brain is telling you. And so we want to get into that higher thinking brain. And that's where you get to find your north, your true north. You're probably not going to find your true north while you're in lizard brain. So we want to get out of lizard brain and quiet it down. And we want to listen to that authentic self, which is way more likely to be listened to if we can calm down and quiet that lizard brain. Recognize it and then quiet. And we'll give you some tips at the end here on how to do that. So another thing to think about is when you're trying to find your true north, and you're not sure if this again is this my wiser self or lizard brain. I like to look at the problem and see what I'm looking at. Is there something I can do about it? Is this totally out of my control? I'm just a little, I'm a little pea in the big picture of things. And so what I'm doing right now, is that gonna really have an impact on these bigger decisions? All my thinking, if all my energy is going into worrying about something that I have zero say and zero control over, zero impact or minimal impact, do I want to invest that much time and energy in that thought process? If I have, if my answer is, actually, I do have some influence, or where do I have influence? That might be the next question. Okay, there's a big society problem. Well, so how can I have a circle of influence over it? Then I may go, okay, this is what I do. This is what I know I can do. And I know it can ripple out into these other areas. So if I stay focused in that instead of worrying about what Joe Schmo in Washington D.C. or New York or big city, I can't. I got no say in that. But what I do with all of you in my world, what I do in my writing, what I do in my creative energy, I have impact to that, and it might touch somebody else by whatever I hopefully write or learn from my spirit guides. I share that with others. That's my circle of influence. If I stay focused on that, now we're talking about my true north, because I have influence over it. I can have some impact. Now, if I have impact on it and it's coming from lizard brain, that's not the greatest way to do it. So I want to still understand, am I in lizard brain? Yes, I have influence, but if I start writing and complaining about everything, yeah, I can get a lot of people to join me in complaining. Boy, people love to jump on that bandwagon, but does anything really get accomplished? No, no. Other than we'd love to all sit there and have our cheese and crackers with our wine, but it doesn't solve anything. So I want to look at where do I actually have some impact in helping others, helping myself and helping others. That's usually coming from the higher frequency emotions. And I'll show you a chart on that too. So, but our words and our thoughts actually matter when we get into that authentic true north self brain, or the other side. And if we're in that lizard brain, those words and thoughts matter too. They have impact. We attract more of whatever we send out. Real easy example of that is if I go out to my alpacas and I'm cranky, I'm gonna get spat on. They pick that up. They were very good teachers of holding that mirror up, of knowing when I'm in a bad mood, because when they don't want to be around me, they're saying, "Get away from me! Get away from me! You have bad energy. We do not want you around. Go away!" And they spit at me. So if I'm aware of it, I can quiet my brain down. I do some breathing. I change my language, and then they don't spit on me because I've changed my energy. I will go out if they're in a cranky mood. It has nothing to do with me. They can be cranky on their own. They've had somebody ticked them off or something, and they're spitting at each other. I'll use peace and calm. I'll send out that beautiful energy of peace and calm, and 9 times out of 10 they stop fighting because they're picking up that much nicer energy. So I'm using my thoughts, my words in a productive, what do I have influence over? kind of energy, instead of getting cranky with them and say, oh, that's nasty, don't do that. Don't spit. If I say don't spit, I'm going to get spat on. They only hear spit. They don't hear the don't part. If I say, let's have peace and calm, guys, peace and calm, and keep that in your mouth, they're more likely to do that. So I'm very careful how I choose my words and my thoughts throughout the day, is the higher frequency emotions, even when I'm in a stressed state, or there's times when, yes, if your pet is sick, if there's something going on, you are going to be worried, but I don't want to get stuck in it. If I've lost a loved one, there are times when these negative emotions have a purpose, but then I use the higher frequency positive emotions to help counter it, so that I can still grieve, so I can still have sadness and fear, or whatever I need to experience in the moment, but I don't want to get stuck, and I don't want, again, to be making major decisions while I'm in that higher stress state. So I use the higher frequency emotions to help pull me out of it, so I can experience the emotions that I need to experience, the sadness, the loss, whatever I need to feel, but not get stuck by it, and also not to make the decisions coming from that lens. So here's the chart that I was just mentioning that really can help you understand what I'm talking about. So you can see on the bottom, the lower, the shame, guilt, grief, fear, anger. Those emotions are negative emotions, I guess. I don't even like to use that term so much, but they have a purpose. Again, they have a purpose, but we tend, when we're in lizard brain, we're making decisions from those, and they make a habit. They tend to be, there's a fear component in them, and that usually puts us into our lizard brain when we're in those emotions. If we are residing a lot of our day life in those emotional areas, then we are making a whole lot of decisions based on that lizard brain. And then again, it's not the wisest decision. So we want to go into that neutral area and even higher. So when we go into the healing circle, if you stay on for that, the healing circle, I'll ask you to tune to love or above. So love, joy, peace. Actually, no, it's not on there, is gratitude. Your gratitude's very high frequency. It's up there around between, I think, joy and peace. So gratitude's really high. Believe it or not, love is one of the lower ones. It's still powerful, but it's not the highest. So we like to tune to that, but we want to tune to at least the love or above. And their magnitude's stronger. And then what's happening again, these emotions are just chemicals our body creates to relate to an experience we're having. And these higher frequency emotions move really fast. And so it's like they don't get stuck, and they keep us moving, and they trigger different parts in our brain that trigger the more content part of our brain, the calming part of our brain, the happier part in our brain. Those chemicals that get released into our body, then we can turn down the volume. Those chemicals are what's turned down the volume of the fear brain, that adrenaline based part of our brain. So we want the calming chemicals to come in, or the joy filled chemicals to come into our body. Now we can start accessing our higher thinking brain. Again, when you're in the anger and lower emotions, you're most likely in your lizard brain, and you're going to make those three decisions, one of three decisions: run, fight, freeze. So again, we want to get into that lover bug. So by doing some deep breaths, and here's the tips: by stopping, listening, and I talked about listening with your animals. If you have animals, spend time with your animals, because that naturally just gets those happy chemicals going through your body. They give you such joy and love. So that's a great way to get into calming your lizard brain down. But also, you want to breathe, add in that gratitude, add in the love, add in the joy as you're doing your breathing. Spend at least 2 minutes doing it. Takes about 2 minutes to get those chemicals to flow through your body and start turning down the lizard brain. It's sometimes the more you do it, depending on the problem, but the faster you can come out of it. So it takes about 2 minutes, 90 seconds to 2 minutes to actually turn the volume down on the lizard brain so that you can hear the higher frequency, the higher, your higher self, your authentic self. And that's when you get to listen to going, where, where should I be heading? Where's my true north? Oh, I need to, this is not working. What I'm doing now is not working. I'm in lizard brain. So how do I get out of it? Breathe, add in love or above, and then for 2 minutes, and then you can ask yourself, so what would be a better way to do this? What would be my higher self? You can ask spirit guides to help you. Show me a way, show me a different way, because the habit that I keep doing is not working. So show me a better way. And you might hear something different to go do. So, so with that, this week we just had our Heal the Healers group, which I was just talking with Victoria about it, and we might have to change the name because people get it confused with the Healing Circle, which is the meditation. This is a little different, but it is the purpose of this Heal the Healers group is to help you find your true north and that authentic self. And we're doing that on the fourth Monday of every month at 6 p.m. this time. It's the same time as these webinars, so 6 Pacific time. So we just had this one Monday, so end of April. Keep an eye out, and we're doing these once a month for you. And they've been really interesting and working with y'all. It's been fascinating seeing what your subconscious comes up with and help guiding you to hear it more carefully. Upcoming events. I have an animal communication class, an intro to animal communication class hosted by Jen Weigel coming up April 11th. You register through her website since she's hosting it. We've been doing these now. I've lost track. This is our 5th or 6th one. They sell out. So if you're interested in it, we do keep it the class size nice and small, so there's plenty of time. It's on Zoom, and so far, knock on wood, we've had 100% success in teaching you how to communicate intuitively with animals. And we use my alpacas for the first half, and then we use your pets for the second half. And if you don't have a pet, I got lots of them, so don't worry about it. We can help you learn how to communicate intuitively. And this is also a great start if you're nervous about listening to your intuition, if you're just opening up to your intuition or your spirit guides. Working with animals is so much safer. It just, it's fun, it's cool, and it's a really great training ground. And they're wonderful teachers, by the way. The alpacas are amazing teachers on the intuitive. But you feel less vulnerable in working with them because they don't judge. They don't care if you get it right or not. So there's no judgment by them. So it just feels like a safer environment to open up into your intuition. Let's see. Again, immediately tonight after we're done here, we'll do a healing circle. But the next one is just healing circle is Saturday, April 1st, April Fool's. But it's not April Fool's. We're really having one. Oops, I got the time right. It's at 12 noon Pacific time. So ignore the 6 there. It's at noon. And then next Wednesday is going to be another healing circle. So that's kind of it for the near term, other than I have an animal emotions webinar on the 19th. We'll be talking before then on what else is going on between now and then. So I don't want to confuse you with too many. There's lots of activities. I think the calendar's on my website. I think my tech person got it up. So if you're interested in seeing the whole month, it's up there. If not, just keep an eye. I'll be sending out emails a couple days before each event, so you'll get reminders of what's happening and with the registration links. And I will try and send you out the link to the animal communication class, and it is on my website as well. So if you want to participate in that, you may do so. All righty, so let's get out of here. And if anybody wants to experience what it feels like to have an trapped emotion released. We can do that for you. You have anything going on? Don't be shy. Or be shy. It's okay. I'm shy. Believe it or not, I'm highly introverted. So I can just make myself good in front of people. It actually took me a year to be able to be brave enough to do these webinars. So
Yeah,
anybody?
I am too. And I, like you, when COVID hit, I went, oh, good. I can be all alone. So, yeah,
As we introverts, I was joking all the time. Go, we trained for this our entire lives.
right, right,
It was the extroverts that were wigging out. We introverts were just fine.
right. And I was even better if I stayed away from the news, you know. Yeah,
Still,
still, yeah, me too. I got
try
out
and
of
limit.
that news habit. Yes.
Yeah, I try and limit what I intake. It's overwhelming.
Yes, yes. And sad every day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So does anybody want to, if not, we can go right into the healing circle. But if you want to have a clearing, we can do that. Anybody need anything cleared, trapped emotion, want to experience it? Allie, okay. Hi, Allie. Welcome. So let's see. If you can unmute yourself. There you go.
I'm on.
You're on. All right.
So it's my first time joining you.
Okay. Good. Welcome.
I've talked to you before regarding my daughter, but not myself. So yeah, this is all new to me.
Okay.
But
I'll be gentle.
I'm really interested in trying to tap into my more authentic self and not get so caught up in all that's going around me, on around me and in the world, and just being able to, stay on a higher path.
Yeah.
So
It helps you stay on a higher path and on a more even keel, so that you just don't get, when we're in lizard brain, it's just so easy to get us pulled off of our focus of what we really, where we're better for everybody, including ourselves. We get caught up in the other stuff, and when you have a kid and other things, there's a lot of activities happening on, and a lot of responsibilities and go type things, or just a lot of energy happening. And in your
Yeah.
case, I know that you have a lot more things going on. So it it that the tendency in the training, the habit is to be in the worry state a lot. And again, it's really hard to be focused and find out what is that better, wiser self, um, to make a decision of what is the best decision at the moment. And that, I think, too, is for parents. I'm not a parent, I'm a pet parent, but even for my pets, you worry all the time is like, well, is this the best decision? And you can get stuck. Or then you second guess yourself, and then you blame yourself because maybe it wasn't the best decision, or the outcome didn't come out the way you'd hoped. How many things have I have great ideas, and then the reality of what happens is far from what the vision was. You'll hear me, oh wow, a plan actually worked. Wow. That's exciting when an idea actually pans out the way I envisioned. But when we're in that worry state, and the lizard brain comes up, and it can beat us up terribly and do all sorts of stuff, and that isn't healthy. And when we do make a good decision, when do we say good job? When is the last time you praised yourself for something?
Yeah. Not often.
Not often. And so that's part of the retraining the habit too, is starting to focus on what worked. And the critique voice, there's the difference between criticism and critique. I want that to sink in for a second. There's a difference between criticism and critique. Criticism is, I don't know if y'all watched Harry Potter, it's that Dobby character that would beat itself up all the time for any mistakes done, or anybody else made a mistake, then it took on the responsibility of the world's mistakes. It just beat itself up terribly. That's criticism because it's not constructive. It's just saying, you screwed up. That was dumb. That was stupid. Blah, blah, blah. What is constructive about that to help you learn how to do something different? Critique is to then go back and go, well, what worked? What didn't work? What can I improve on? What would I do differently if I'd given an opportunity to do something differently? That's critiquing. Okay. So there's no judgment on it. It's just going back and assessing. Well, that kind of worked. Okay. But it wasn't 100%. So I think if I did it this way next time, I would do this. I got shearing of my alpacas coming up shortly. And it's changed a lot over the last 13 years that I've been doing it and running it, organizing, being the responsible party for it. Some years have been really rough and things did not always go smoothly. And I felt bad about it or whatever. But and I've got older animals and I've got some lame animals. So helping them through it so it was as calm as well as least painful to them is really important to me. So I've learned what worked. What could I do better? Give them their shot of pain meds, not just minutes before, do it 20 minutes before. So now I know, I've changed. I used to give it after we were done. Then I realized, oh, wait, if I did it before, maybe they wouldn't hurt as much during the whole process, not wait until after, and then they have to wait another 20 minutes before it kicks in. Let's do it before. Let's get it on board ahead of time. So it's always learning and assessing and trying to do what is easier, what is better, what is more efficient. So it's critique. Okay. So as a parent, or anybody, it doesn't even about parenting. It's about, and you're doing stuff. Think about how would I think about it in that term. If you hear yourself judging yourself, that's lizard brain. Want to get out of that? Do your breathing. Add in love or above, and then turn it to a critique instead. What would I do differently? Now you're getting out of that circle of concern versus circle of influence for yourself. And it always starts with, if you want to impact the world, start with yourself. That's the act locally. Okay, so Alan, I'm going to tap into you now. Oh, your neck is tight. So if I'm turning, I have about 45-degree turn on my neck. Is that about right for you? You might, okay. And it was worse going to the right. They're both pretty tight. So clearing the first emotion, I'm going to clear it. Unsupported. Oh, there we go. Oh, that was a nice release. You might feel it right away. You may not. Okay, so you can probably turn your neck a little bit better to the left. The right is still tight. Do you feel a difference?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me do another one. Okay, failure. That was probably from that critique versus criticism that was coming in. Okay, now you can turn your neck to the right. Try that.
Yeah.
Is that better? So now you get to see what just 2 little trapped emotions did to your body. But they also create habits and a perception, a problem. So again, we have thousands of trapped emotions in our body, but just releasing 2 little ones help your body feel better, but they can also help you think more clearly when something comes up, because we don't want, if these trapped emotions are like the gas pedal going right to that gets stuck in our bodies, also are like a gas pedal that goes to lizard brain. So as we remove these trapped emotions, we can help just keep ourselves a little more calmer and balanced so that it doesn't bother us as much. I think of it as there's a threshold that we can manage, both emotionally wise and physically wise. And if we exceed that threshold with trapped emotions, then it impacts us both mind, body, and spirit, or not both, all three. So we want to get rid of those trapped emotions, not just below the threshold, but way below. So you're adding to deal with life stuff. So we did too.
Thank you.
And see how you feel. If it comes back really fast, then that is another sign that says, I'm above that threshold. And we can clear more. We can clear lots in a 15-minute session. We can clear lots for you and your daughter, by the way. I can do 2 usually in 15 minutes. Anybody else like to experience it?
And do you think if those emotions stayed trapped long enough that that's the root of a lot of dis-eases?
Yep.
Okay.
Says what happens is, and we can start getting trapped emotions in the womb, by the way.
Right.
But what happens is it's like creates a block. Think of a boulder. You put a boulder in, or in the water in a river, and what the water has to go around it. It can't go through the boulder. So your energy can't go through those trapped emotions. It has to go around it. And so it's blocking and weakening a certain spot. And that energy that's going around is not necessarily maybe hitting here. It could be hitting further down. And so a
Okay.
lot of people, I'll say, oh, the trapped emotion is in your hip. And they're going, no, my knee hurts. And I'm going, I know, but the trapped emotion and it's blocking the path that making your knee hurt is actually in your hip, or your pelvis is tilted and that's causing a pain. So if we remove the trapped emotion, that'll help your knee. But we have to get rid of the trapped emotion that's in your hip before we can help your knee. So yeah, so there's trapped emotions and they build up, and they are, again, they're just chemicals, and they have an electromagnetic component to them when you get into the physics of all that stuff. And so they can attract more like itself. So they tend to get lodged. You can have the same emotion going on every day or every year. You go tax time, tax time,
Right.
lower back. I get a lot of lower back stuff, tax time, because the trapped emotions go into the second chakra, which is money stuff, and that's lower back.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, and I get accountants. I don't know if one of my accountant clients is on today or not, but yeah, get a lot of lower back for them because they're overwhelmed, and they're, even though they may have fine financial stuff themselves, but they're dealing with everybody else's financial stuff and the stress of trying to get it done. So their lower back tends to get
Right.
this time of year. So a lot of accountants, I need to help.
Hmm.
Then a lot of people that go into their lizard brain because they're procrastinating getting their taxes done. So if somebody calls me, go, yeah, my lower back is, and I'll ask them, so have you done your taxes yet? No, but I know I need to do it. And I go, hey, that's why you're bad.
Uh,
Did that answer your question?
yes.
Okay.
And then literally, like tax time. What is it truly? It's a pain in the back.
Backside, a pain in the
Right.
neck. So I get a lot of
Right.
neck issues and a lot of lower back.
Right.
Yeah. So again, your language, if you keep using that's a pain in my tush or pain in my neck, you're going to
Right.
have a pain in your neck.
Right.
Because
Right.
you're just sending it right there. Your thoughts
Right.
are sending those trapped emotions right to it. So you want to change that language.
Mm.
I catch myself saying that sometimes too, but I try not to. I get reminded to change my language when my neck hurts or my sciatica kicks in.
It'll remind
Oh,
you.
yeah, it reminds
Yeah.
me exactly. What's my language? Am I in lizard brain? Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes and
Mm.
yes. And I use my own tools. Okay, anybody else want to try it? Not, we'll get right into the healing circle. Going once, twice. All righty. I'm going to stop the recording.